Hi beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. It's been a hot minute. Your girl has been busy, okay? Your girl has been busy. But today I'm back and I'm going to be sharing 6 hair growth tips. If this is something that you're interested in and you want to hear more, then do stay tuned. So back to today's topic, hair growth. Such an important topic when you're on a hair journey, because there's just no point, doing so much, buying so much for your hair, following all these routines, and you're just not retaining length. It's not a really nice feeling. So when it comes to noticing growth, it's all about length and obviously volume, but it's all about retaining length so that you see the rate at which your hair is growing. However, this can be difficult sometimes, and sometimes we do things that kind of hinder that whole process. So we don't retain length as much. For instance, when I first started my natural hair journey, I did a big chop to transition from relaxed hair, I'm a bit slow, relaxed hair to natural hair. And I did a big chop. But when I did the big chop, I didn't exactly know how to care for my hair. So my hair ended up breaking even more. I wasn't really noticing any length. It was always so dry. I would apply a lot of heat. So I ended up with a lot of heat damage. So I ended up doing a big chop like every year for 3 or 4 years. I'll do like a big chop every year. Even if my hair grows, I'll do a big chop. So I wouldn't necessarily see the length. Till I was able to learn a bit more about my hair type, find good products, stick to good products before I finally started noticing length. Obviously now I know how to care for my hair a bit more than when I first started. So every year now when I do a length check, I can tell my hair has grown quite a lot. Yeah, so on average, let me hit you with some fun facts real quick. On average, our hair is meant to grow 1/2 inch every month. So that's roughly like 6 inches in a year. But this can vary depending on your genetics. So it can either grow a bit more or a bit less. And also depending on your nutrition, what you eat, and yeah, the things that you put in your hair, so the products that you use and just routine and things that you do to your hair. Obviously if you're doing things that are damaging to your hair, to the ends of your hair is going to break a lot, so you're not going to notice any length. So today for the tips, we're just going to dive into some of the things we can avoid and some of the things that we can do to promote hair growth and to retain a lot of length and moisture in our hair. Okay, so my first tip today is avoiding over manipulation. So over manipulation is like when you're always doing stuff to your hair. You're always brushing your hair, you're always combing your hair, you're always changing styles, you're always tugging and pulling on your hair. That's over manipulation. And what that does is every time you're doing something new to your hair, you shed a little bit, you break a little bit of hair. And if it's something that you do a lot, you're always doing it, it's something that is regular in your hair care routine, you're not going to notice any length because your ends are going to break off. So avoiding over manipulation. I'm sure a lot of you know some of these tips already, but it's always good to refresh our memory. And if you don't know, this is a good way to learn something new as well. So yeah, over manipulation. The second thing is dryness. Dryness is the enemy of natural hair, because when your hair is dry, it just breaks off. And again, you're not going to notice any length if your hair is just drying out and breaking. So this kind of trickles into moisture retention. So this is something that you can do. Try retain a lot of moisture in your hair so that your hair doesn't dry out and your hair doesn't break. But how do we even begin to retain moisture in our hair? This is when the lock method, I'm sure a lot of you know what the lock method is. This is when that comes in, and all the other variations that come with the lock method come into play as well. Okay, so if I'm going to talk about moisture retention and the lock method, I'm going to also hit you with some more fun facts. So when it comes to moisture retention, there's obviously so many things that you can do in within the lock method to retain moisture in your hair. So you can do LOC method, LCO method, LOCO method, LOCOS. There's just so many. I'm gonna put a photo right there so that you guys can see. So screenshot it so that you can know exactly what I'm talking about. So on the topic of how to, retain moisture in your hair, like I was talking about the different variations of the lock method, it's very important to know your hair. And when I say know your hair, you need to know what hair texture you have, what hair density you have, and the most important thing, especially when it comes to retaining moisture, is your hair porosity. So I'm gonna do a separate video because I don't want to confuse you guys too much on hair porosity, hair density, hair texture, all that sort of thing. But just for background, your hair porosity is the rate at which your hair can absorb and retain moisture. So I think if you have low porosity hair, it just means your hair struggles to take in moisture, but when the moisture's in there, it can stay in there, I believe. You can keep it in there, but it just struggles to take in moisture. I think so. Guys, don't go and quote me anywhere because I'm not too sure. This is just to give you a bit of background. And high porosity hair is when the cuticles of the hair is a bit open. So obviously if your hair cuticles are open like this, if moisture goes in, it'll go in very quick, and it can also leave your hair very quick. And there's obviously medium porosity, which is just normal porosity. Your hair doesn't absorb too quickly and it can keep moisture in there for a while. I think this is just the best way to sum it up, but I'll come back and do a really detailed video because I've researched so much into it. But yeah, depending on your hair porosity, you will need different variations of the lock method, if that makes any sense at all. I heard for high porosity hair, it's good to go with the lock method. So you have to do liquid leave-in conditioner, then an oil, then a cream, simply because the sealing oil will absorb the cream slowly, and cause water and oil doesn't mix so much, it's not so easy for it to just kind of come through and leave, if that makes sense. That's just the best way I can describe it right now. I know what I'm talking about in my head, but as to whether it's making sense or not, I'm not too sure. So yeah, the lock method is obviously really important, and the variations of it is really important, and knowing which one actually works for your hair type or your hair porosity is also really important. So retaining moisture in your hair is a good way to kind of just protect your hair from breaking. And yeah, it helps you retain a lot of length. On the topic of hair growth, my third point today, point number 3, is getting rid of split ends. So split ends is the worst thing when it comes to growing your hair. Split ends is your enemy. And the thing about split ends is if you don't cut the ends, if you don't trim your ends, your damaged ends, the hair keeps splitting up, so you just end up breaking your hair quite a lot. So that's why it's important to obviously trim your hair when you see that you need a trim. I do it twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. This year I've had to trim my hair 3 times because I got a lot of damage from swimming in the sea and swimming in the swimming pool in the summer, and just heat from the sun. So I trimmed my hair twice this summer, simply because I had a lot of damage on my ends. But yeah, it's very important to get rid of split ends so that it just doesn't keep splitting up your hair shaft, so that you just retain length. Okay, so what I was gonna say as well on the topic of hair trimming, it's important to trim your hair, but I don't know, I feel like our hair, my hair anyway, it grows at different rates everywhere. So you have some bits that are genuinely just short and just shorter. You don't necessarily have to. I'm saying this because I notice what some people do sometimes. I used to be that person where I'll just trim everything so that it's the same length. But it took me a while to realize that your hair just grows at a different pace depending on your hair. So maybe the length of the front of your hair might be longer, but in the middle somewhere you have some shorter bits. But if it's not necessarily damaged, there's no need to trim it all to be the same length, you know. You can give it some time to catch up, because I believe our hair doesn't just grow at the same pace on every side. So yeah, that was my tip on split ends. I think overall you should trim your hair like every 6 months, but it depends on you. If you find you have a lot more split ends, and say you trim your hair twice a year, which is what I usually do, but you notice a bit more damage at a certain point, but you've already trimmed your hair and you feel like you need another trim, then go for it, because like I said, it's just best to nip it. So in point number 4 is using the right tools, the right accessories. Is very important if you have natural hair to use the right tools and the right accessories. You can't just pick any comb up to brush your hair, because some combs are not very good for natural type of hair and can break your hair. So it's just little things that you have to bear in mind really. So the right combs, like wide tooth combs, brushes, you know, tangled teasers, Denman brushes, and just all sorts of tools that are just designed for curly hair, natural hair. I think stick to more of those things. And when I talk about accessories, I mean like using the right bonnets, the right materials for your hair. So you know, when we wear like cotton or even wool or something like this, and your hair's down, you get a lot of friction. So your ends end up rubbing off a lot, and these can cause split ends and breaking your ends a lot. So just bearing in mind just things like that, I guess. And when I say the right accessories, I guess using satin is really good, because like things like polyester, cotton, wool causes a lot of friction and your hair ends up breaking a lot. So even if you're using a scarf at night, or even your pillowcase, if you just sleep without a bonnet, even your pillowcase, bear in mind satin is better, because it helps like it doesn't absorb all the moisture out of your hair. So you actually retain a lot more moisture when you use something that's satin, and obviously your hair glides off it, so you don't get a lot of friction and a lot of breakage on your ends. So bearing things like that in mind is very important. So using the right tools, using satin bonnets, satin pillowcase, satin scrunchies, the right brushes, the right combs, things like that is very important. And it's not much, but it's good, because you don't want your hair to be breaking on your pillowcase when you sleep at night, stuff like that. Okay, and point number 5 is protective hairstyling. I think I should have made this point number 1, because when it comes to retaining length, this is like the most important thing. And by protective hairstyling is like just tucking your ends away when you put your hair in a bun, when you braid your hair, just any sort of style that tucks your ends away and keeps them protected. That's a protective hairstyle. It's obviously good to bear in mind as well, when your hair is in a protective hairstyle, it's also good to still, like, you know, moisturize it, massage your scalp with oil, stuff like that. This trickles down to my last point actually, which is I think it's the inversion method. So the inversion method, if you guys don't know, it's like scalp massaging, but doing it upside down, when your head is like down that way and you're like massaging in circular motions. This is meant to be really good for blood circulation, and obviously when you have good blood circulation on your scalp, your hair grows a lot. It promotes hair growth. So yeah, the inversion method, I've heard so many amazing things. I don't necessarily do it as much as I should, but I'm actually trying to incorporate it into my routine at least once a day. Just go upside down with my head, whoops, And yeah, just massage my scalp in a circular motion so that yeah, I can get good blood circulation in my scalp and my hair can grow. It's meant to be really, really amazing for hair growth. So that's just a tip that you can try at home to get your inches, baby. Okay, so yeah, that's it. That's my 6 hair growth tips. Nothing too serious, just a few tips here and there that you can do, things to avoid and things to bear in mind, things to incorporate into your routine to just help your hair grow. There's loads and loads of tips out there. Obviously there's so much more that you can do for your hair, but these are my major tips, I guess, things that I do. Yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you found it useful or you found it helpful in any sort of way, you think someone will benefit from it, then do share it, give it a thumb up, hit the thumb up button, and yeah, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, guys, and what sort of videos you want to see on hair care and skincare, and I'll get right to it because we're in lockdown and I have a bit of time, so now's the time really to suggest what you want to see. Okay guys, or what else was I gonna say? Can you guys see my head wrap style? This is lockdown hairstyle inspiration, baby. So if you guys want to see more head wrap styles, I have a video that I'm gonna link at the end of this video, so you guys can check it out and, you know, do some head wraps for lockdown. Okay, take care and stay safe. Bye.